Hello and welcome back to another episode of Lore and Loot. Speaking to Rundy about orders, we get the quest, the Dissapla Mine. Our job is to go to this glass mine and speak with the owner, Vvardenfell. The mine is located on the mainland west of Sadrith Mora, immediately north of Fort Vvardenfell, a Dunmer Stronghold. Unfortunately, there are no easy ways to get to this location. The most direct is to just swim from isle to isle until you reach the mainland and then walk the rest of the way. You'll of course encounter slaughterfish, mud crabs, and if you're unlucky, Drew along the way. Traveling by boat from Sadrith Mora to Tel Arun will shorten the distance of your swim, but isn't really that much closer. Alternatively, you could travel by boat to Tel Voss, which is a lot further north along the coast, and just run south until you reach the location. If you take this route, you'll be fighting rats and nixhounds and possibly the occasional elite instead of slaughterfish and mud crabs. However you get there, the mine is immediately north of the northeast corner of the Dunmer Stronghold. And speaking of which, we've seen a few of these massive structures on our journey, but we've never actually stopped to take a good look at them, so why don't we do that now before we head inside? Vvardenfell is a Dunmer stronghold, one of 11 found on the island of Vvardenfell. Very little is actually told to us in-game about these structures. It is possible that they were built way back in the First Era by the ancient Dunmer, known as the Chimer back then, to defend the island from the Nord invasions from Skyrim and Solstheim. Possibly, they were built to defend against the Dwemer, or perhaps they were built by both the Dwemer and the Chimer in defense against the Nords. I think the most likely explanation is that they were built by the Chimer in defense of Vvardenfell against Nord invasions. Another theory is that they were built before the First Era, in the time period known as the Morrowind era, a time far, far before anything that we ever see in any of the Elder Scrolls games. It is during this time period that the Chimer were at their cultural peak, generally referred to as the High Velothi culture. If this is the case, then this would have happened before the Dwemer and Chimer were truly at war with each other, so this lends more credence to the idea that these fortresses were built to defend against the Nords. Now, whatever their origin, it does seem that at one point or another, the strongholds were used by the native Chimer as headquarters. For example, we know that the great Chimer leader Vorin Dagoth used one of the ancient strongholds as his clanstead. It is possible that other Chimer leaders used them as headquarters as well. Another reason I think these strongholds were used by the Chimer leaders in defense of Vvardenfell against the Nords is that all of these strongholds, with one important exception, are connected via teleportation device called a propylon chamber. Each of these chambers is connected to another in a chain. Instant teleportation is possible between any two strongholds next to each other in this chain if one has a small dark stone called a propylon index. It seems possible to me that the ancient Chimer, well versed in the magical arts, were able to craft these teleportation devices in order to transport troops from one stronghold to another without having to traverse the entirety of the island. But as I said earlier, not a lot is told to us in-game about these strongholds. But there is one book in the game that does mention these strongholds, although the historical accuracy of it is highly questionable. The book is part of a series called Ancient Tales of the Dwemer, and is called The Importance of Ware. It's written by Maribal Sewell, an author about whom we know next to nothing. However, the key bit of information comes by way of the publisher's notes at the end of the book. This tale is another, which has an obvious origin among the Ashlander tribes of Vvardenfell, and is one of their oldest tales. Maribal Sewell merely changed the names of the characters to sound more dwarven, and resold it as part of his collection. This tale does have some scholarly interest, as it suggests primitive Ashlander culture, but it talks of living in strongholds, much like the ruined strongholds of Vvardenfell today. There are even references of a stronghold of Othrobar, somewhere between Vvardenfell and Skyrim, but few strongholds outside of sparsely settled Vvardenfell have survived to the present. Scholars do not agree on who built these strongholds or when, but I believe it is clear from this story and other evidence the Ashlander tribes used these strongholds in the ancient past instead of making camps of wickwheat huts as they do today. Now, of course, this is not definitive, as it is just the opinion of the editor of this book, But whoever this editor is, he seems to be knowledgeable in ancient Chimer and Dwemer. Now, whatever the true story of the strongholds, in modern-day Morrowind, they have all been abandoned by their original owners, and are typically filled with hostiles, whether bandits or necromancer covens or Daedra. They are typically fairly dangerous. If you want to use them as quick travel points in the game, you'll have to clear them out of their current inhabitants, as well as find the indices for each of them. Anyways, history lesson over. It's time to focus on the present. We have a job to do here in the glass mine of Dissapla.
Spit it out or hit the road.
What do you want?
The mine itself isn't too big. We find the owner, Novor Drethen, near the entrance. Apparently some Nyx hounds have gotten into the mine and were attacking some of the miners. A healer, Teris Arothan, was sent to find one of the missing miners. However, she came back, and Teris never did. We're to go find him.
Let's do it.
Oh, come on, leave me alone.
As I said before, the mine is small, and we'll find Teris being hounded at the top of these stairs. When we talk to him, he'll ask us to escort him to Novor. I recommend taking the long way around and not using these stairs, as Teris could get stuck on them.
Something you need.
What is it, peasant?
Now, for whatever reason, everyone here is angry at us and hates us.
Thank you.
But anyway, our reward is glass
Make it
shards.
quick.
And we know these to be pretty valuable, so we'll go ahead and take them gladly. Now, if you're the stealing sort, you can also get a lot of raw glass from the glass veins here. Just make sure you don't get caught. Now, I'm not playing a bad character on this run, so I'll not be stealing the glass. Instead, I'll take my reward and head back to Wolverine Hall. I'll see you there. Once we return, Rundi will pay us 250 drakes for the contract, and that's the end of this quest.
Today is your lucky
And that's
day.
also the end of this
So let's
episode
hear
of
it.
Lore and Loot. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time.